Happy New Year, and I hope you had a great 2024. Now, starting this year, I hope that you have set out your plans and your goals for the year 2025. This is something that a lot of us set out at the beginning of the year, and as we go through the year, we experience setbacks. Setbacks are part of the journey, so expect them to happen. And the reason why I'm saying this right now is that your plans to invest on a regular basis, your plans to save on a regular basis, your plans to pay off a certain amount of debt, your plans to do something significant towards building wealth will often have its own hiccups along the way. And I want you to know that those hiccups or those setbacks are often part of the journey. Now, nothing good comes easy, like they say. But you also have to remember that the setbacks are there to challenge your ability to overcome them. And that means if you set out a goal to invest, let's say on a regular basis, or you plan to pay off a certain amount of debt, sacrifices will need to be made. And that means that when those challenges come up, they will test your integrity, if I may put it that way, your ability to stay true to your own words and commit to paying down that debt, or commit to saving that money, or commit to investing that money will do you good in the long term, because that is you staying true to your own commitment, to your own plans. And you know that those plans that you've made will pay you rewards over time. And the rewards would be, for example, if you invest, that means you will reap the rewards of the investment over time. And if you choose to save, that means that money that you've saved can be used towards something that you've set out for it. And same thing goes with paying down debt. If your goal is to get rid of debt, then you want to make sure that you pay consistently to get rid of that debt, or maybe even aggressively to get rid of the debt, because debt is one of the things that will slow us down and weigh us down in really building wealth. Now, there's often the good debt and the bad debt, and knowing which one to use at a certain point in time could act as a leverage to help you, maybe build wealth. But I'm not going to get into that conversation today. What I want to highlight to you at this time is that maybe you have missed it in the news that last year, 2024, the stock market returned around 23%, at least the S&P 500. Okay. And 2023 also returned over 20%. 2024 returned over 20%. And that means in just 2 years, you've made over 40% on your money by just doing what? Putting your money into the market and letting your money work for you. And that is exactly what you want to keep in mind. Now, let me set the expectations straight. It is very easy for us to look back and assume things will continue to happen that way, when in reality, those returns are actually unusual. The typical return of an S&P 500, for example, is around 7%, sometimes 6%, and sometimes you may actually have a negative return. So what I'm trying to let you understand now is, as you set out your plans, as you set out your goals, be very realistic with your expectations of what the market will do, especially when it comes to your investments. When we talk about investing or saving money or building wealth, there are generally 6 areas that we should focus on. And I'm not going to go into details of these 6 areas, but I think I should mention them. The first one will be your income, how much you're earning, how can you earn more, and how can you make your time more efficient at what you do? So that means maybe you can do the same amount of work in less time so that you have more time to do other things outside of maybe making money, maybe spending time with your family members and the likes. But your income is really an important area, because this is where, for most of us, we have a job, you're working, you spend a lot of time at work, and you want to make sure that you're getting the most out of that job, at least for the time you spend at it anyway. So your income aspect takes a huge part of our life, and that means that we want to make sure that we're getting the most out of it as well. And this is where, we can talk about asking for a raise, and maybe could you double up to make more money for a short period of time, even though it may take more time from you, depending on what you need to do, right? The goal here is, if you want to build wealth, your income is definitely one of the levers you can work on. If you have the option to increase your income, then maybe that's something you want to pay attention to in 2025. The second thing that we have in the wealth creation process will be our expenses. What you spend money on can be controlled for most part. Those subscriptions that you don't use, especially the ones that you thought you would use a lot more in 2024, maybe this is the time to cut them off, because hey, the $20 there, the $50 there, it all adds up. And at the end of the day, you're likely to find yourself in a situation where over the course of 2, 3, 4, 5 years, these recurring expenses or subscriptions that you don't use end up adding up to something significant, especially if you had invested that money. So you don't want to keep giving the money away. You might want to cut it off and invest that difference, or invest the money. Now the third one will be the savings aspect. You see, your savings is really where the needle starts to move, because if you have the discipline to save on a regular basis and you are able to save a high portion of what you earn, then you're likely doing well. Think about it like a business. If you wanted to invest in a business and the business had a way of generating income and had a way of spending some money, right? Expenses. The difference between the income and the expenses will be the profit that the company makes. Now, for you as an individual, the difference between your income and your expenses might then be what you are able to save, whether it's 10% at least at a minimum, but maybe you can push it to 20%, maybe 30% of that amount that you earn as income. That money being saved goes a long way, because that's where you can then have money for emergencies. That's how you're able to save for things that you need in the future, because you have committed to saving on a regular basis and you're able to save a high portion of what you earn. Now, moving on from savings would then be investing. Now, you've saved enough to cover your emergencies, you've saved enough to cover some of the things that you would need in the near term or maybe in the long term, then maybe you might also want to then focus on investing a lot. Now, we're not going to talk about investing for retirement now, because I think that should have been one of the first things that you do, whether you have a job, whether it's a business, where you have a retirement account, because you always want to secure your future as soon as you can, because time is ticking. And by having an investment account, or a retirement account rather, you are able to start taking care of the future. So that is important. But when I talk about investments, I'm talking about things that maybe could be the likes of Roth IRA, or it could be a brokerage account, or it could be a child savings account, or it could be a 529 account, depending on what are the things that are present in your life that you're planning for. You're likely to use these types of accounts to your advantage, which will give you the exposure to invest in the stock market. And that is what you want, especially on the area of investment. After you're able to invest, and you're able to invest on a regular basis, then you should consider the other aspect of debt. Debt is one of the areas that will slow us down, pull us down, weigh us down, and that's not what we want. We want to make sure that our debts are managed in a way that they don't weigh us down, they don't burden us too much, and we have a plan of paying them off. If it's a car, especially something that is losing value, maybe finding something that is more affordable and something that you can pay off rather sooner than something that is way more expensive that maybe will take you a longer time might be something you consider. If you find yourself in a position where you are struggling because you have too much debt, then you might need to think about what type of debt you're carrying. Is it credit card debt, right? Because those generally would have interest rates that are astronomical and are not favorable, especially if you're trying to build wealth. So you should definitely look into those and find ways to cut them off. And when I mean cut them off, maybe cut them off physically, because that will give you more room to build wealth after you've paid them off, of course, because you don't also want to ruin your credit. The next area that you should think about will be protections. And think about protections as like the insurances that you have, whether it's health insurance, car insurance, home insurance, whatever the The things that you believe are assets that you need to protect, you may need to look into those as well for the year 2025 and work on those things. But in creating wealth, we have to look at these 6 areas that I've just discussed so that we are fully covered, we are fully protected, we are fully aware of where we can make improvements, and that way we are able to achieve our long-term goals. If you have found value in this one, don't forget to check out my next video. See you in the next one.